All right, we are here back with our next Artivist Talk. Thank you guys so much. This series has been an amazing learning experience for me. I'm going to just make sure we invite Alexia. And yep, this is a very special. I met Alexia a long time ago. I might have been close to 10 years. And a lot of these Artivist Talks are connected to folks that I have been really engaged with, and they have been engaged with the artivism. Boom. Alexia, welcome. Thank you for joining us on a Tuesday.
Getting set up.
I love Makoni. Yep, take your time. We're out here. If you know anybody should pull up, we appreciate everybody here. And yeah, this is a very special one, Alexia. Thank you for taking the time to do this.
No problem.
I'm gonna give you a little introduction, but is there anything on your heart before we start? I'm gonna give you a little intro. I'm gonna do a little something. I'll give you my definition of artivism. I ask you for the same, and then yeah, we'll see what's up. But is there anything on your heart before I set it off?
No, don't want to force it.
Beautiful. Well, I have the honor of meeting Alexia. I'm guessing around 10 years ago, or maybe even
Like
more. I'm very bad with linear time, but I was doing a music program in the Lower East Side at the East Side Community High School, where we did after school sessions, everything from songwriting to music production to live band. And Alexia was one of our students. She goes by the Whisperer, amazing poet, artist, vocalist, visual artist. A lot of good things, a lot of great things. But she has a very beautiful story that we're going to share with you that is very connected to artivism. And I've learned a lot from working with Alexia over the years. Alexia has not only done her own thing, but she has supported a lot of the movement. She was there helping out at Blank Bamboo. She was doing some work at Freya. She's also unraveled talents in tarot, oracle cards, and other forms of communication and artivism. But Alexia, that's what I got, and she's a very special person and near and dear to the Decipher community and has been doing her thing. But yeah, please drop a little info on anything I may have left out, and then I'll go into a definition of artivism to start this off. But thank you again for being with us, Alexia. We appreciate you with gratitude. I'm gonna put on some funky filters.
No, you really nailed it. To the T.
Thank you. Got
So I don't really.
it? No, nothing you want to add?
I mean, I would go on a whole like ramble of things, and I want to have I'm gonna honor your time, and I would like to, because once they start talking, I will go into a whole thing, and
You
that's just
go
how I
in.
am.
The Whisperer is a storyteller,
Yeah.
which is we're also throwing that on the bio up there.
Yeah,
Official
storyteller, definitely.
So, Alexia, we start off all of these conversations with the definition of artivism for creative expressions. So the two words in artivism, very simple, art and activism. What is different though is that creative expressions, we don't think activism has anything to do with being political or anything to do with governments. Has to do with is activating your organism to its highest potential so that you can fill in your cup till it overflows into something beyond self. Now, using art to do that means using art to literally pour into yourself to the degree where your art and your work can spread beyond yourself, because we feel that art should be shared. So that's how we define artivism. And of course, I want to pass the mic to you to say, what is artivism to you? What kind of ways do you express your art and artivism, and how is that flowing for you? Thank you again, Alexia.
So it's funny how you like phrase things, because that was in my mind, but you did it in your way. And I didn't even look at your own definition before this, but I will add on to that. So activism to me is basically, like, from a mental health point of view, it's empowering yourself, and then as you're empowering yourself, you can empower other people. I'm definitely not looking at it from a political point of view, but I'm definitely looking at it as of like, how can we empower others and empower ourselves as well? Because we're not the only people on this planet. Like, we live as a community, and activism to me is really just working on your own self-care, your own self-love, and based off of that, you can help other people and basically, like what I said, pour your own cup, and have it overflow. It really gives me in tarot gives me the feel of Ace of Cups,
Mm,
which is Ace of Cups is like, in tarot when you get that card, it's like the beginning of love. But like, I don't have the deck near me right now. But if you look up the Ace of Cups in the traditional tarot,
mm-hmm,
there's a hand handing a cup out, and it's overflowing with water. And cups in tarot is about emotions,
mm,
intuition, stuff like that, and also like love in the heart. I like that because it gives it room for the heart. But anyways, like, I just wanted to give a visual for you guys to understand when it comes to showing love is and helping other people. It really starts with yourself. And
mm,
anytime you think about activism, think about how can I help myself, because you
mm-hmm.
are part of activism. um
Facts.
so yeah, I don't know what else to add to
No,
that, but
that's great. And Alexia, you tapped into something which is going to really, really inspire other people, and it has really inspired myself. We spoke on community, and you spoke about doing these things. You grew up in a very unique situation. I know your pops, shout out to Big Brian Trash, was definitely exposed you to a lot of different things music. You also grew up in a very unique community, even before going into traditional matrix schools. You were kind of like a rebel with a cause from birth, you
yeah,
know?
from,
And
from beginning without knowing.
yeah, so I know that I had the honor of meeting you since you were in middle school. So, like, I learned this story, but I would love for you to share the story of community and how you got into art making and that foundation that I think was high key, a artivist kind of foundation that you had, right? So let us know about your upbringing. I know the story, but I want you to share the story because it was very
Yeah,
unique, and I think it had a deep place in developing who you are today as the whisperer, and someone
before
who thinks
I
out of the
get
box.
into it, keep in mind, I was a baby after all this happened. I
Mm-hmm.
came to be after all of these events happened,
Mm-hmm.
but I know the cliff notes.
Gotcha.
I know,
Take us,
I know
take us there.
so like, so my mom and my dad was met in the Lower East Side, East Village. My mom was probably in the 80s, so was my mom in the 80s, 90s was the time period. I was born late 90s, 98.
Mm-hmm.
So after the after the fact of everything happened. But you know I was born into a community of the squatters community, and they were fighting for squatters' right. So being a squatter means, basically back then it was, the way I think of it is, the squatters community is all walks of life coming together, all these misfits, all these people that don't fit in with the norm of society, coming together, poets, musicians, artists, um, even probably some psychics there that I don't even know of. Just all kinds of misfits together in one little area. And basically, like Avenue C, in 9th Street is where all this happened. I'm pretty sure in other areas, but mainly like the Lower East Side.
Mm-hmm.
And they did all kinds of things to help, keep basically, they basically try to find a home. And they were like, there's a lot of like anarchists in this community, and they were all about like anarchism, which is anarchism, it's, let me think of, anarchism is misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
It's, to me it's not all about, like, chaos. It's
Mm-hmm.
more of like, anti-establishment, more like, and also, to be more specific, anti-toxicity in establishment.
Mm.
um so, like, they will, like, all walks of life, all cultures came together in this community that I know of. And being a squatter is finding a home, basically abandoned building, and making it your own. And
Mm-hmm.
basically, they would find these abandoned buildings, no running water, no electricity, no heating, no anything, and they literally would work together to fix up the buildings. And
Mm-hmm.
there was moments where, like, there was none of that, and they would just live together. And there would be moments huddling up in the cold, because it was winter and they had no heat, but they didn't have nowhere else to go, but they had each other. So they were the definition of community because they had each other, and they were the definition of activism because they worked together to build a community. And squatters' rights was a movement where basically the government was like, well, you can't live here. This is our building. Even though it was abandoned and it wasn't touched for like years. And so basically they did all these protesting things, and they did all these, I don't know the details, but I know at one point they like what was in Tompkins with and they were there like in like tents and like protesting things. Again, I don't know the details. I may be getting it wrong a little because again, I was a baby after all of it. But that's basically the general clip notes of everything.
Yeah, well, thank you, Alexia. The reason I wanted to touch on that is because it has come full circle where we are going through housing crises all across the world. And it's about looking at these things. Now I'm hearing the term eco villages and people working together to create these systems. But this comes from a long history that is activist minded of an activist nature.
I did miss one thing.
Go ahead.
After all of this, the buildings that they took over at the time, it's our building now.
Nice.
They got the rights. So I just want to add that, like, you know, when you work together, anything is possible.
That is exactly why I wanted you to tell that story, Alexia, because so many people forget that there are ways that we can succeed. And even in these times, people may not even know that squatting rights existed. If you were able to show that you put into work in the place, that led to ownership. And in New York City, this is so needed for people to be aware because we live in one of the most expensivest places on the world. So it's really important for us to do the history. I do want to ask you, Alexia, how did that affect you? You gave us the pre-story before you were born and as you were a baby. How did that affect your upbringing, and how did that lead you to like your mindset, your exposure to art? Because it's a unique upbringing, right? It's not the norm of what most people have.
After that, I lived in a building called Serenity, literally called Serenity. It's still there. My brother lives there now. With my niece and nephew. And it looks completely different, but still there. The front is the same. But basically, like, growing up with my dad, I was exposed to you know, bands. He took me to band practice, and I was exposed to like metal. And I went to these concert shows, not like full-on concerts. That came later. And I went to these shows, and it was very like metal, like crust punk, which is very like, how do I describe? It's like metal and punk combined. A lot of screaming,
Nice.
and but like it's a lot. I was exposed to a lot of punk music, a lot of metal, and my dad was in a band that's on hold right now called Wound, like the cut, and it's basically like a psychedelic metal band, and my dad is a vocalist. He screams and he plays the harmonica, which is unique, the harmonica point of view there. But but that's not only it. Like, my dad was very educated in music. I was exposed to like all kinds of genres, you know, from like 1950s music, 1960s music, like 1950, like all kinds, 1920s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and above, all kinds of different genres. One of my favorite genres I was exposed to is when I was as a kid was ska two-tone, which is punk mixed with ska together. And it was a beautiful little genre. And my favorite band was the Specials. So that's just an example of like, you know, not everyone knew who the Special was, but I was like a kid. I was like, oh, I love the Specials. And so, like, you know, music was a very big influence on my life, which is why music comes first in the arts. It helped me through a lot of hard times, and it did build a lot of resiliency in me, because when music talks about everything, there's no sugarcoating in music.
Yeah.
So
I love it, Alexia. Well, this wants me to lead into your creative expression. What did you first start out with artistically, and how did you express yourself? I know I met you at an early age where you were heavy into the poetry, the writing. You were in a couple groups with the youth that we
So
were working with. But please let people know your artistic journey. And I know you do everything from drawing and a lot of different creative mediums, and they're always dancing with each other, so to speak.
yeah. So the first outlet for my creativity was art. I was basically doing art since I was a toddler. But what I mean by that is I was drawing on everything.
Mm-hmm.
To be more specific, lines on everything.
Mm-hmm.
but but as I got a little older, I started creating my own style, which was I would draw these what is that book? If I remember the book, that would make you um I don't remember that book, but it's a children's book, and they would always compare my drawings to that children's book. Um, something in the wild. I'll think of it. I'll
Where
think
the
of it.
wild things are?
Yes, because that's literally what my like. I would draw these. I would call them creatures, and
Mm-hmm.
basically they were little like animal mixed with different animal things, and
Mm-hmm.
that was my child mind did that. I can't do those
Mm.
anymore, but my child mind loved doing those, and that's basically was my first form of creative expression.
Yeah.
Um, as I got older in middle school, I wasn't aware I was a poet. Um, it's funny because like, as I met Y, I literally got this. I got this like, what do you call it? Like my school recognized me and they were like, "Oh, you're a poet, but you never know it," and like
Mm.
this whole like certificate thing, and I was like, "Oh, I'm a poet, okay."
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what that was, and I was in 8th grade, not knowing what it was. All I knew was like when I met Y, I was in the art gallery in my
Mm.
school, and he
Mm-hmm.
was doing his thing talking about beat rhymers, and I was intrigued by his presence, and I don't know, I was just called to go to his after school program because I don't know, something he spoke to me in some way that I didn't really understand, but I just knew gotta go. And
Mm.
I did something that I from the beginning, why has this beautiful thing when he meets somebody, he'd be like, you know what, I see you are here, but you could also be here.
Mm.
So he's like, let's like you are capable of anything you put your mind to. All you need to do is just get out of your comfort zone.
Mm.
And that was basically my first introduction to Y. When I went to his little group, I was out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote something. I don't remember what it was about or anything or how it was formatted, but I said it out. I performed it a little bit out loud, and I've never done that. I remember writing something prior to that, and
Mm.
crumbling up or like throwing it away or putting it away and not looking at it up again.
Mm.
Um, but Y was one of those people that took me seriously, and because prior to that, like I did love singing and I did love
Mm-hmm.
expressing myself in that way,
Mm-hmm.
but my school like rejected me.
Yeah,
They
I
basically
remember
like,
that
oh well,
story.
you don't know the technical things of music, so you can't perform right now.
Mm.
But I'm like, but you're not teaching me the technical things of music. I was
Mm-hmm.
very open to it, and Y saw that.
Yeah, well, thank you, Alexia. And I want to go on the journey. Thank you for the flowers on that. The reason that we use the different pedagogy is because her school had an existing band. They had a rock band already. And I remember I came in and they didn't give me nothing. They just gave me pens and papers. And we used to bring in the iPads from Beat. And I was like, nah, these youth want to do music. They want to sing. They want to do this. And then I remember going to you and a couple other students and saying, how come y'all aren't in the band? And then they were like, exactly what Alexia said. Because you guys didn't know certain things, they were like, oh, this band is only for people who know this. And I took it on as a personal thing to be like, yo, we're going to go and build a band. And then I remember going to the shout out to Tom, the assistant principal at the time. And I was like, we're going to make our own band and we're going to do what we got to do. And, in my opinion, we ended up catching a body, as I like to say. We went in, but you evolved, Alexia, and that's all credit to you because I give these tools to hundreds and thousands of people. I want you to take the journeys on the next step. You had this background where you're exposed to music. You were doing more alternative, out the box things. You already were into visual art. You saw something that sparked within the program through writing. Now you came with us to other programs such as The Door, and then you joined the Beat Band. I want you to talk about that journey as someone who didn't fit into the regular things. because your journey is always a story of perseverance. And how did you evolve your artistic practice? Because I think the way you evolved it is deeply connected to artivism, right? You
Yeah.
activated yourself. So tell us that story of how it continued. And I know you even left school, but you continued doing your art and music. So take us further on the journey now.
So try to remember the earliest moment of writing where I was writing about like something that I noticed in our society. Because I was very aware. So I wrote a piece, I don't have it on me, but it was a piece about indoctrination. And people that remember that piece at that time, I did look in the mirror. What do you see? Do you see yourself for who you are to be, or something like that? I don't remember the exact lyrics, but it was very like about indoctrination, because I was this kid in school that I saw I saw the flaws in the system. I saw like wait, what are we doing? Not all all shoes fit all. Like, it's not one shoe fit all. It's not that kind of thing. Like, I have ADHD, and I've always had, and they were not sensitive to that. They were like, well, you got to do X, Y, and Z, and if you don't do it, well, I guess you're just gonna fail. I was supposed to get like a tutor in all these things, and they just blamed me. But when it comes to that, that was kind of like where my resiliency like started. Is I was like, well, once I let me first, that was, I wrote about that. That was about out of the program, Urban Art Beat. I believe that was the name, and that program helped me build, you know, any moment where I was writing and to show my craft, it was a moment of growth. And that program, what that program taught me is that even though I was singing only falsettos at the time, and I wasn't using my full voice, I still took away some things from singing. Like, I forgot what it's called, but I don't know what it's called, but it's when I'm just gonna do an illustration because that's the best you can do. You basically go up and down a note and kind of thing. Yeah, that I still remember. I don't do it because I want to get better at singing. That's one of my goals. But little things like that. That was years ago. I still remember that one little warm up. I still remember that. I that program taught me that, oh, well, you can be on tone, you can be on the right notes.
On pitch, yes,
I'm
on
always
key, yeah.
struggling with being on the right note of things. Singing with music. So that was evidence. I'm like, for me, that program was evidence. Oh, you could sing.
Do it.
So as I got older, in ninth grade, I started, writing down my beliefs, and I did see the flaws in the system, and eventually, at one point, led me to homeschooling. That led me to, but why I bring that up is because that when I was in ninth grade and was day day class thing.
The day school programs, yeah.
Yeah. I was writing this piece basically on indoctrination that eventually went into I started writing a blog about like the school system, and I used the introduction of that piece that I was writing in Y's class in that blog.
I remember.
And I still have it. It's not finished, but I literally studied, the school system, which is honestly like credits to the teachers. Honestly, teachers need more credit, and that's something. Education is really important to me, and that's another thing. When it comes to activism, I believe activism does start with education, and it does start with self knowledge as well, mixed with education, self awareness, so all of that. Anyways, so
I love it. I want you to take it. So this is a really deep story of artivism, Alexia. I am here basically reminiscing on something because your journey was a step-by-step process. It was a long journey. It wasn't a try this one day, and you're still continuing it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you what you felt internally, because it's real what happens to a lot of artists. They want to do music and they start by getting exposed. I know you sang in talent shows. You did. I remember you showing me that OG clip you had, right? And yet, music is something we're always learning. What do you think was the reason that certain conventionals, forms of music, didn't fit for you? Why do you think that even though there was a band in your school or even though these things were there, but yet I believe everyone can do it. So I was like, nah, you got to learn these scales. You got to learn these warm-ups. And as you did it, you did it. And you had amazing people. Shout out to Jesse Davis. Shout out to Melanie Charles. There were people that were supportive, right? But
Yeah.
how come do you think there are so many situations that aren't supportive in music and art? And why do they tell people like, oh, you couldn't be in the other band or that? I want to know your perspective because I never had that experience of, I just figured out how to do it on my own. But I want to know how that felt internally and how that felt within your being, knowing, because you look, obviously this is 10 plus years later and you still have a passion for this, right? So it's obviously something you're meant to do. But I want you to share that insight with other people who might be facing the same challenges, feeling that they don't fit into some societal norms or conventionals. And what about those systems didn't work for you? And what about the other ways that you were exposed did work for you? Because I think that's a huge experience I would love for you to share.
So when it comes to growth, when it comes to working on ourselves, especially as a student in school, with having a teacher, there's I've noticed there's something lacking in the school system, especially when I talking to music teachers or like anybody. It's just also just our society. There is a huge issue in our society, and that's with mental health.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mental health stigma crisis right now, and it has been going on for a long time. And I feel what the problem with the school I was at is there was a huge I was stigmatized for years at that school and just expected to do X, Y, and Z like it was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Put in
they
a
put me in
box.
a box, and they never addressed my ADHD, nor was I diagnosed at that time. My elementary school said I had a learning disability, but they never said what it was. Um, I it would have I don't know, like I feel like that's something to acknowledge. Oh, she has a
Mm-hmm.
learning disability. Let's acknowledge that. Let's work with that. But people with learning disabilities are often they learn over the years to feel like they have no knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
they have no wisdom, they have nothing to offer this world
They're
because
outcasted.
they don't fit the box. And that's kind of what I felt, and I did fall into depression, and I've been struggling with mental health for years, and I've grown a lot from the last year of mental health, and more than that. But mental health is a journey. It's not just a one-time thing. It's not just a one therapy session. It's a lifelong journey. But that's another topic. But back to school, it's like I feel like one thing that's missing in the school system is that like mental health awareness. I even went to counseling in that school, and she was not understanding of me. She even
Mm.
brought one of my teachers there, and she was like, "Oh, the teacher was like, well, she's not doing X, Y, and Z," and she was like to me, well, "You're not doing X, Y, and Z," and I didn't understand. Meanwhile, this woman's calling me emotionally intelligent, but she's not
Mm.
teaching me what to do with that. And I'm not saying like that was her job, but like as somebody that's learning, that's still new to the world and not even an adult yet, emotional intelligence could be taught. It can be taught. It can always be taught.
Mm-hmm.
You don't always have to be like self-aware at first to have emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
It's a muscle. You can build it just like any skill in music.
Exactly, Alexia. That is the exact point. I want to throw some little keys in the back. The reason that I wanted to have you speak on that is a lot of these things that are deemed problems within school are advantageous to our existence. Some people that might be labeled as having ADHD or this, they have high level advantages in certain situations. It just means you work differently, your mind operates differently. But once you figure out how your mind works, you can then unlock anything, because I want to highlight what you said. All people can learn if they're given space to learn in their way.
Yeah.
Some it's going to take longer, but we are a coexisting interdependent species. And you left the school, but you were still able to do another program within the door and go into other things. How has community affected your journey? We talked about within the squat community, you were exposed through birth to this alternative way of life that not a lot of people have. And as you grow up and develop, you're a young woman now, and I know community is a big sense, and that's a big reason I facilitate spaces in certain ways, including this digital space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about community, whether it's the lack of it, creating communities, finding tribe. I know that's been a big journey for you and something that you're diving into, but just talk about community and the importance of it. Take it in
Yeah.
whatever way your spirit calls you to.
I'm honestly gonna be honest with
Do
you.
it.
I've been isolated for a long time. I have come out of my little shell a couple times to be around people, but a lot of people that struggle with mental health, or just are doing their own thing, and they don't know how to, like, or they're lacking social skills. Um, Anyways, whatever your reason is for having a hard time connecting with other people, isolation is common. And it's a very common thing in our society, especially like when people are I don't think we can all meet people at a work. I don't think we can all meet people at um a class that we go to. I mean, it's deeper than that. Like, a lot of, and I also notice that a lot of people these days, they want like superficial relationships. And let me explain, I'm not trying to attack nobody. Let me explain, like, what I mean by superficial is like they like to have small talk, and people don't want to have deep conversations. They want to have surface level conversations, and they just want to talk about, like, I don't know, TV shows, movies, video games. I'm not dissing on that. We can always talk about those things, but life is more than that. And the problem is, like, people, there's a lack of space. And when I mean space, I don't mean a room. I mean, like, in our hearts, for like an open mind, for like other people's pain. There's a lack of tolerance because we just assume that, oh well, if you have pain, you just have to get over it and fix it yourself. There is no fixing emotional pain, and definitely no fixing trauma, especially generational trauma, which is very a thing in our society. I mean, just look at our human history. There's a lot of pain and suffering, and that's why I'm an activist, because I'm anti-suffering. But when it comes to community, I feel community does start with ourselves, loving ourselves, being with ourselves, friending ourselves, because when we do that, we know what our needs are, and when we understand our needs in relationship, and also have boundaries, we can build better relationships. I'm not saying relationships doesn't always mean like talking about pain all the time, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like we need to talk about it more. And like, we could, there's moments we can talk about pain, and then we can talk about something else after. It doesn't have to all be like that. But the thing is that I see in community is we need to be there for each other as a society. We just need to be there for each other in some way or another. Um, and I'm talking about the human race as a whole.
Yes, agreed. You touched on some amazing things I want to highlight. The coexistingness of species getting beyond the surface level, because you could be around somebody for a long period of time, but if those interactions or conversations don't reach a level of depth, it just becomes this very, I don't want to say meaningless, but it's a very shallow connection until you go there and you can actually say what's really on your mind or what's on your heart, or say something that someone else might disagree with, but be okay with opposing or different points of views. right? We've seen, and you also touched on something very important for all generations, is isolation, right? It happens to elderly folk. It happens to people once they leave traditional matrix things like jobs or schools. What do you think we can do, Alexia, to foster those deeper connections that you're mentioning? And how can we hold that space? Like I said, it's not literal space, but it's that emotional space and space in our hearts, right? I know we've done a lot of the work and we've done it, but I want you to be able to express what you feel are these solution-based methods for creating space that goes beyond surface level, and also how do we eliminate the isolation and create those deeper bonds or get beyond the surface? So I know you've done some written things and you continue to go back to the drawing board and work on it, right? You know, it's an ongoing process.
All right. So I'm just based off of my observations and just the people I've had, I've observed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of people feel very isolated, including myself.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I do see that help is, you know, seeing each other in person, and having a kind of a group setting where we
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of guided, because sometimes people haven't been out of their house for like months maybe, or they haven't talked to somebody. I'm just talking from a mental health point of view. I've seen people deal with mental health, and I've seen them and they haven't been around for people maybe in years.
Mm-hmm.
It can get really bad like that. There are people like that, and that's just one thing too. That's one thing, but also one thing that I do see a lot of value in is also having a internet space,
Mm-hmm.
a maybe a Zoom chat or like something. But those are just things I'm seeing. Like, I don't think it's one solution, but I just think more opportunity for a space where people can connect, and maybe like I mean, this is gonna take some work to figure out, but like I can brainstorm eventually. I know I'm passionate about this, but like having like maybe like a list of questions we can ask each other. Like I remember I
Mm-hmm.
was at the last activist event with Y, and
Mm-hmm.
Y was like, "Oh, I'm trying to make people feel seen," and that's also another thing that's really important. Is a lot of people don't feel seen and heard and understood even, and just talking to somebody new, and even though it's out of our comfort zone, it is important to connect with people. um that question is very important, like, oh, let's just connect with somebody new. I know it's outside of your comfort zone. I know it's a lot, could create a lot of anxiety, but you deserve to be seen by another human being that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
um so that's kind of what it is. I mean,
100%.
it's going to take a lot of work as society to kind of figure out the solutions for this. But the one thing that the mental health system does fail is building these spaces for people. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just saying that. I'm just saying that because because like they do it from a clinical point of view,
Yes,
not from a human point of view.
that
I don't know how
surface
else to
level that you
explain it.
mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you have these symptoms. Let's just treat these symptoms, and that's all you are, symptoms.
Woo!
That's basically what I've noticed. And a lot of these people I've seen, they don't know what to do anymore. And anyways, it's my heart goes out for everybody that feels isolated right now.
Wow, Alexia, I'm so thankful that you spoke on that. And I'm happy that you are, and thankful, immense gratitude for what you're sharing. I always like to reiterate what you're saying. Spaces are being created, right? Everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people have access to this very device that we have, right? A smartphone with the internet connection. A good amount of our population in a lot of places in the world have this, right? Yet we use it to isolate. That's why I started this series a month ago, and I'm already up to 13 talks that are over an hour. I make sure that I'm being an example. I did 2 seasons of podcasting. You were on one of them, and I got little to no attention, but I kept working on it. I had a work-live community space where I was striving to do a lot of the things that you mentioned. And due to mental health and people's challenges and going through things, it didn't work out. But I tried again with Freya. Freya, rest in peace to the venue, they were squatting in 2023. They squatted that space for 4 years. I can say it now because the time has passed, but they were fighting for art to be held in the space. And when they saw I was doing what I did, they just gave me the space, right? Solutions. My brother's also been in and out of psychiatric institutions. My dad was diagnosed schizophrenic. My brother was diagnosed everything from bipolar, manic depressive, schizotypal personality disorder. They got more diagnoses on him than the letters of the alphabet, because depending on what day he goes in, he's given a different diagnosis by a different doctor. So no matter what we are, what we're facing, we're alive, and everyone deserves to have space held for them. My big thing that I want to thank you, Alexia, is I want people to really know just what me and you are doing now. Having a conversation that me and you would have easily had either in my studio space or walking down Washington Heights in the park, right? This is accessible. The same energy it takes to doom scroll for an hour could be to do this, right? And I'm so proud of you. I want to talk about what you've been doing with the tarot, with the oracle cards, and you have now begun to put yourself out with your readings and share it. And I remember at a point you were like, "Why? I'm not ready to share it yet." And I was like, "Nah, Alexia, whenever you're ready." Even when we were setting up this talk, I was like, "Yo, Alexia, just give me a date." And you're like, "Wow, I'll take a couple days," but you showed up. And then I was like, "Once you give me the date, I'm coming with the material. I'm gonna come through with it," right? Please talk about how you've been putting yourself out there and the relationship within your work, within now the tarot and the oracle, because I've met other people who do similar things, but you take a very unique approach by how you display your craft. Just like every singer can take a new approach, every musician can take a new approach. How is your approach in putting yourself out there? And please let us know what your other work with the tarot and oracle has been adding on to your journey, because I think it's an
So,
evolution in.
oh, sorry, you broke up.
Go ahead.
So when I was on the bus when I was thinking about my first YouTube video, and I had this, my intuition was like, you should make a YouTube video, and I didn't question it. Usually I would question it, um, because I would be like, well, you don't have all the cards memorized in the tarot deck. You don't have it all memorized. But when you learn about tarot, you learn that the meanings of it. But when you get deeper in the craft, you learn that it's not about the meanings, it's about your interpretations of the meanings. It's about how your perception of the card. It's about, because like tarot is very fun to play with, because I mean it's beyond just that, but it's also just like it's kind of like poetry, because like you have all this symbolism and you have all these metaphors for different things, and we can look at this dolphin in many different ways, and it's still a dolphin, but we could see it in different ways. Like different dolphin could mean different things to different people. That's just an example, but like, um, so like, when I started tarot, I was just doing it for myself. And honestly, I started doing tarot randomly, and it was because I found a deck in my dad's house, and I started playing with it, not knowing that it was tarot. I didn't know it was tarot until like 2 years later, and I was doing it, and it was scaring me, but I came to do it. And eventually someone was like, you're doing tarot, right? You're doing tarot. I was like, what? And then I started looking at tarot card videos, and I was like, oh, interesting. And then the same year I bought thousands of decks, because I was like, well, I love this. And it took me a while, and then I started doing a couple readings at Decipher events with and that built me up more. And I did a couple lives on Instagram, which I'm gonna start doing again. I was very called to do that. I'm probably gonna do that this Wednesday. I'm gonna start doing Mondays, not Monday, Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. to Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Not that long, just 2 different time slots during the day.
Gotcha.
So, but that's just spontaneous stuff is the beautiful thing about tarot is like I don't write a script. Everything is improv. But it's also just like I'm just listening to my heart and my intuition. And it's basically what tarot did for me is it gave me the guidance I was seeking and got me closer to something beyond myself. And because of that relationship I created with tarot, just one-on-one, I was able to help other people get the guidance they need and and um and love that would help their hearts. But tarot and oracle goes hand in hand. Oracle cards are basically everything else that you see in a tarot reading that's not a tarot card. That's basically what it is. It's like an animal deck with like different animals on it. It's like a moon card with different moon phases. It's just different kinds of oracle. It's different types of oracle cards out there that have different meanings. But basically, like when you're watching a tarot reading and they pull out a card that isn't a tarot card, that's an oracle card. And basically, oracle cards help kind of like, help kind of like display the message in a deeper way than tarot can. Because some of those oracle cards have quotes on it. Some of those oracle cards have like symbolism. Because in the animal deck, they do talk about dolphins, and dolphins, in the tarot deck does talk about playfulness and tapping into your own abilities and different symbolism. And when you add the symbolism of tarot and the symbolism of different other cards, it creates this message that people can learn from and take something away from at the end of the reading. And that's when I know if you could take something away from my readings, I did my job.
I love it, Alexia. You almost described what's in music a harmony, right? You could have your root note, which might be the tarot, but you can expand on it to make it deeper. And I see that commonly in the thread of this conversation that we're having. You're always going forward, but you're bringing everything from your past experience with you, as we do in life. You're adding on, right? I want you to talk about where you're at now in your journey. You spoke a lot about mental health. You spoke a lot about different forms of creative expressions and the ways that you are putting all these puzzle pieces together to paint a picture.
Right.
What do you see as happening right now within your being and what's going on, and how do you see this playing out in the future, in the near future, in terms of like, you have all this deep foundation with alternative lifestyles and everything. You've been through your own challenges through mental health, psychiatric things. Thank you for your vulnerability. But yet you've always had these tools that helped you navigate, whether it was writing, poetry, singing, tarot, oracle, right? How is this all coming together for you now and in the near future?
So I just want to say, I'm in a very powerful moment in my life right now. And what I mean by that is I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not hiding anymore. And what I mean by that, to be even more specific, is my talents, my abilities. I'm not hiding myself. And I'm showing who I am. I'm creating this YouTube channel and my TikTok, my social media, doing videos of myself, which I've been wanting to do for years, if I'm being completely honest. And I'm making all my tough experience I've been through in life a inspiration, a motivation for a better life for others, including myself. I'm showing off my tarot so I can help other people. I also, like, I'm not at a place in my life where I can be like, I'm gonna release an album next week. I'm not even a song. But you know what? Meet yourself where you're at. It's been my motto. Meet yourself where you're at. where are you at right now? What are your skills at this time? How can you use that? How can you be your most authentic self and not hide your talent? Because for years I've been hiding who I've been because I'm like, nah, I'm not there yet. Finding all these excuses because I felt insecure and unworthy. So and not good enough. So I basically was like, well, fuck that. And I am showing myself off, and one of the things I am doing is I'm writing, which I'm gonna share when the time is there, but like
Yeah.
I'm just writing lyrics and a song, and instead of being like, oh, I'm not gonna show this until it's like released and with music behind it and an album and blah 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 blah, like no, Alexia, like I'm just gonna read my work, do a video, and perform it like I'm performing it on stage, but just use what I got, do what I got, use where I am. Like
Love it.
if I'm at a place where I'm just writing my lyrics in draft mode, even though when I mean draft, I just mean
Work in
revising over
progress.
and over and over. But it's not, when I mean draft, I mean like not like released, album thing, just like rawness of the now. So, and that's been working for me. I have a couple of these videos out. I mostly do tarot on my on my social medias, but this is what I love to do, is write and do music.
I love it.
And so that's just an example of like where I'm at right now. And I'm at also important point where like I'm having an outlet right now for my creativity that I've never had before. And I'm doing different things because like right now my YouTube channel is has so many different potentials, and one of them is I am starting a mental health series of all the important things that we can learn from mental health, and all the important things that we need to talk about in mental health, because somebody needs to do it. I don't mind doing it. I love doing it. I have a lot to offer in the mental health field because there's always more to learn, and mental health is valuable. Everyone's mental health is valuable. No one deserves to suffer.
Mm. Alexia, thank you. This is very, very beautiful. And you're right on divine time, where this is the part where we'd love for you to share a piece of your choice and just drop it. Like I want to always, I reinforce and echo what you said. Back to creating spaces for evolving, allowing yourself to trust the process. I love what you said about draft mode. No matter where your work is in whatever piece, share it, because the way it evolves and continues is not by hiding it on in a notebook or keeping the video private, but put yourself out there, and it can always have an impact not only on other people but on ourselves too. So we want to hold space for you right now to share a piece of your choice. I know you had one on deck. Let us know the title of the piece if you have one yet so far, and feel free to drop it. And thank you again for just dropping so much gems and nuggets. We're dropping the gold right here for you over here as you're about to drop this piece. And thank you again for sharing your story.
So
It's been amazing.
yeah, it's been a pleasure. Why? Um, so this is called The Whisper. It's it's one of the first pieces I posted on my YouTube channel, but I've been thinking about writing this piece for a while because of my name, The Whisper. So anyways, it's here. I'm happy. I'm gonna share it. um, I sat in my introspection for so long, I became the teacher. I paid attention to the details and zoomed out to see the bigger picture. I became one and aware with myself and life. I became the observer. Understanding my life and myself in depth, I became the storyteller. By studying my pain and myself, I became the healer. Exposing my insight on pain can feel like a thriller. Showing my raw life experience, I became the trigger. I am the whisper, one with the unknown, so mystical. My presence is metaphysical. My intuition is magical. When you come into my world, I become the mirror. I show you yourself so you can see yourself clearer. Chills go down your spine, giving you goosebumps. You feel the whispers, healing your heart and soul from experiencing the unfamiliar. I am the whisper, one with the unknown, so mystical. My presence is metaphysical. my intuition is magical. As you go within yourself, feeling your energy unfiltered, you discover how strong you are, and how and you discover how strong you are, and you are and your own power.
Mm.
Feeling your strength within, you walk your path from feeling stronger. Claiming yourself, you move with ease like a trigger. Your heart, soul, body flows together like a lotus floating in a river. The way you take the way you take care of yourself with love, you become the nurturer. It took you a while to see yourself, but now you can see your growth in the form of a flower.
Love it.
I spaced out in the middle of that. My bad.
Yeah. No, that's so beautiful,
ADHD.
Alexia. I really wanted to say thank you. Wow, like so many things that I'm reflecting on by learning more about you and your journey. Like you in doing your own healing work is synonymous with your offering. And you are offering so much by literally being your authentic self. And each step has been leading you to the next. And even though life isn't like this, it's like this crazy, it's
Right.
like that drawing that you were doing when you were a kid, probably, you know, that it
Yeah.
goes all over the place. I do want to give you a little bit of space before we wrap this up. If there's anything you want to shout out, anything you want to promote, like your YouTube channel, obviously we're going to tag you in this post and we're going to post this on YouTube and put some information in the description. But is there anything that you want to shed light on, or even anybody you might want to shout out or anything? The floor is yours right now before you wrap it up with a little bit of a little jam. But please
Um.
let us know what's on your heart. Any shout outs, any things that you want to promote that you got going on.
Basically, I'm just gonna start going live. That's probably the new development. Because I was like, well, no one's gonna watch my lives. And then I was talking to someone yesterday. She was like, I love watching your lives. Well, I love doing readings. Here you rang the bell. I'm here. At your service, doing readings on lives. Again, Wednesdays at 9 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Whatever works for you
Mm-hmm.
guys. If this is one person, that's fine. I will also be posting it afterwards, so you can watch it after. But other than that, my YouTube channel has all kinds of things, a little bit for everybody. It is, I have a lot more that's on the channel that's to come, so very excited for that. Again, I will be posting the link somewhere.
Yep.
Um, and I have all my links are in my bio in my Instagram as well.
Gotcha.
I
Yeah,
got
we
a little
tag
link
that.
tree of all my links. I got TikTok and Instagram that you could find things. I do post short videos on TikTok if that's your platform. If not, YouTube's always there. I do longer videos there. Other than that, I can't really think of anything else. I'm
Beautiful.
just doing, my social media thing, posting what I post, mental health videos, my creative expressions, and my tarot readings, and other stuff that's to come. I have so many ideas, and I'm very excited to share with everybody, and help some people along the way.
Mm. Thank you, Alexia. I'm about to grab an axe and get ready for a wrap up. Wow. I want to say I really, really appreciate how much you have just brought to the table by being your authentic self, and how you've continued to walk on this path for, I know, at least 10, 12 years. And no matter what challenges came your way, you're able to go back into yourself and find something that is an offering that you bring to myself and so many others. So don't ever stop. Keep it going. I love how you've evolved your purpose to support mental health awareness, and also to be a example of someone who is, to me, an artist that is using their art and their form of creative expression to not only heal but to give people hope to know that you can do it too. I also love how you're like, no matter how small, if it's just you working out the deck, no matter where you're at in the journey, put yourself out there. I think that's so needed, Alexia.
Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah, go ahead. Anything else on your mind?
Yeah, I just want to say, like, this is a very important quote to me. Be the change you wish to see in this world is my motto. It is very dear to my heart. Also, like, you just have to show up. Anybody can do this. You just have to show up. Like Y tells me all the time. You just have to, Y is like, I showed up today. I did X, Y, and Z, and I'd be like, well, I showed up too. Like, it doesn't matter where you are at. All you gotta do is show up, and that's enough.
Woo! All right, we're gonna close with a freestyle, Alexa. If you feel like jumping in, you can do it. I'm gonna use that line that you just said. I am enough.
Good enough as I am.
'Cause I am enough.
No matter what.
We are enough.
With our imperfections and all.
You are enough.
I am enough.
Always know that you're enough. If you're talking shit about yourself, call your bluff. Even if you got a draft, put it out. Even if you got no followers, follow yourself, figure it out. Create instead of consume. Hit pause, play, and then resume. Be the light in the darkness in the room. 'Cause you are enough.
You are enough. All you gotta do is change your perception onto your beliefs. Challenge your ways, and you will start to see
that you are enough.
You
I am
enough.
You are enough.
No matter what.
You are enough.
No matter what.
Thank you, Alexia. You are enough. What a perfect way to end. And you jumped in on the freestyle and caught a body of love. Remember, y'all, Alexia will be tagged in this post. Tune into her profile. Give her a follow. If you hit the link tree, she's got her YouTube, TikTok, an amazing artist. Alexia, any final words before we close this off? Thank you for reminding us that we are enough. That was such a beautiful...
Being yourself. Just be yourself. You don't need to hide.
With that said, this is Artivist Talk number 13 with Alexia Siebers, aka The Whisperer. Check her out. Stay tuned. Tune in, tune up, and remember, you are enough.
You are
Peace and
enough.
love. We're out of here.